The gravel crunched under their tires as Dr. Lily Graves pulled up to the sprawling lakefront villa in Asheville. Her 7-year-old daughter, Maya, sat quietly in the back seat, gently holding 2 handmade cards decorated with glittery stars. "One for each of the twins," she whispered, her voice barely audible, as if worried it might break. She had spent the night before practicing how to say happy birthday without stuttering. "You've got this," Lily told her gently. Jonathan, her husband, reached back from the front seat to squeeze Maya's hand, his silent way of reminding her she was braver than she knew. The villa shimmered with curated perfection. Giant pastel balloon arches, a dessert table so elaborate it looked like it belonged on the cover of a luxury lifestyle magazine, and a small stage set up for the birthday princesses. Veronica Blake, Lily's sister, a successful lifestyle influencer, stood near the entry in a custom jumpsuit, her smile radiant but empty. When she saw Lily, her grin faltered, only slightly, and then she turned back to a group of fellow influencers without saying a word. Lily and Jonathan stayed near the mimosa station, sipping water and exchanging brief, polite conversation with strangers. Maya clung to her mother's side, her sparkly headband glinting under the fairy lights strung across the patio. "This makes me feel like a galaxy," she had said that morning, spinning around the living room. She looked so proud. Lily had told her she looked radiant. Because she did. When the time came for the gift bags, the crowd buzzed. Each child was called by name, presented with a hand-stitched party tote embroidered in gold thread. Stuffed animals, personalized water bottles, bubble wands, tiny keychains shaped like unicorns. The children squealed with delight, tearing into the bags like it was Christmas. Then, a volunteer reached into the last bin and pulled out a plain white paper bag. No name, no glitter, just a crooked sticky note slapped across the front. In Veronica's handwriting, "Be better next year." The woman called Maya's name hesitantly, almost embarrassed. Maya blinked, looking up at her mom like maybe this was a mistake. Maybe they'd forgotten hers and were fixing it. Slowly she reached inside the bag and pulled out a broken crayon, a used pencil eraser, and a wrapped peppermint with fuzz clinging to the edge. That was it. No toy. No wand. No explanation. Lily felt her pulse tighten. Maya's throat bobbed. Then came the laughter. Sharp, pointed, adult laughter. Veronica cackled first, a high sound designed to signal control. "She's been acting up lately," she said, gesturing toward Maya like she was a misbehaving dog. "Interrupting, crying over little things, just a little wake-up call." Margot, their mother, chuckled from her lounge chair. "Honestly, it's good for her. You baby her too much." Even Gregory grunted a low laugh, as if it were all awkward but harmless. The other kids started laughing too. They didn't know why, but kids always follow the lead. Maya gave a tight, trembling smile, the kind kids give when they're trying not to cry, but the tears are already burning behind their eyes. Jonathan crouched beside her, took the bag gently from her hands and said, "You don't need this. Let's go get some real cake." He didn't look angry, just steady. Lily reached for Maya's hand. Together, the three of them walked through the sea of pastel decorations and curated laughter, past Veronica's shocked silence, past the parents who pretended not to notice, and out the front door. No one tried to stop them. No one asked where they were going. No one said Maya's name. The air outside felt different, cooler, clearer, real. Maya didn't cry, not until they got home. She sat on the couch, holding the birthday cards she had made. "Was it because I forgot to say thank you fast enough?" she asked. Lily knelt in front of her. "No, sweetheart, it was because some people forget how to be kind." Maya nodded and pressed the cards to her chest like they could shield her from whatever had just happened. She curled under the blanket Jonathan had given her last Christmas, the one that said, "You are safe, you are strong, you are loved." And that's when Lily knew. This wasn't new. This was final. That night, Long after Maya fell asleep on the couch, her fingers still curled around the star-covered birthday cards, Lily sat at the kitchen table with the folder. Jonathan brewed chamomile tea, his movements slow, deliberate, as if afraid a sudden gesture might break the silence between them. But they didn't need to speak. The air was already heavy with knowing. This wasn't the first time, just the last. Lily pulled open the drawer where she kept the important things, documents, passports, emergency cash, and slid out the thick manila folder she had been quietly building for nearly 8 years. Inside were screenshots, texts, voice memos, and memories crystallized in writing. It started as a way to make sense of things, a way to stay sane when gaslighting made her question her own perception. And now, as she added the sticky note from Maya's gift bag into a plastic sleeve on top, it had become something else entirely. Truth, gathered. Proof that this wasn't just a bad day or a misunderstanding. It was a pattern, a legacy of small cruelties that had finally dared to touch her daughter. And Lily couldn't let it happen again. She remembered being Maya's age, sitting at her own birthday party, which she shared every year with Veronica, even though their birthdays were 6 weeks apart. The cake always said, "Happy birthday, Veronica," and Lily, in that order, like her name was an afterthought. One year they received a single present to share, rollerblades in Veronica's size. Lily never said anything. Not then, because being quiet was safer than being honest, because she had learned early on that in her family, love was performance, and she didn't know the script. Her parents never yelled, never hit, but their disappointment was constant, humming beneath every interaction. When she brought home a certificate for perfect attendance in 3rd grade, after weeks of powering through stomach aches, Margot barely glanced at it before saying, "Veronica made Student of the Month. That's harder, you know." When Lily got a B+ in math, a subject she had struggled with for months, Gregory responded with, "Your sister never got less than an A." The one time she had the lead role in the school play, her parents didn't come. Veronica had volleyball practice, not even a tournament, just a scrimmage. But that was more important. The message was clear. Lily was always almost good enough. The pattern never stopped, it just evolved. At 15, when she came home in tears because a teacher had falsely accused her of cheating, her mother had shrugged. "Well, you do keep to yourself. Maybe you look suspicious." At 17, when Lily confided she might be depressed, Margot rolled her eyes and said, "Everyone thinks they're depressed these days. You're just bored. Find a hobby." Veronica, of course, chimed in with, "You're being dramatic," and then stole her phone charger and never returned it. By college, Lily had learned to expect nothing. Her parents didn't show up on move-in day. A week later, she received a card with a $25 bill and a note that read, "Don't blow it." But she didn't. She finished school, found therapy, and started the slow, painful process of unlearning everything she had been taught about love, loyalty, and worth. When she met Jonathan, she still apologized for everything, for crying during movies, for needing space, for not knowing how to receive kindness, but he never made her feel small. He listened. He asked real questions. He didn't flinch when she told him about her family, though she made it sound lighter than it was, called it quirky dysfunction. The first time he met them, he squeezed her hand under the dinner table. Afterward, all he said was, "You weren't exaggerating." And when Maya was born, Lily did what many survivors do. She hoped. Hoped that a new generation might mean a fresh start, that grandparents might be softer, more present, that her daughter might have what she never did. And for a while she kept trying. She brushed off the small comments. Veronica saying, "She dresses a little offbeat, doesn't she?" Maya insisting Maya hug people even when she didn't want to. Gregory teasing her for being too soft when she cried at loud noises. Lily tried to explain that Maya had sensory processing challenges, that boundaries mattered, but her family rolled their eyes. "You're overreacting," they said. "She's fine." Veronica went further, called Lily a snowplow parent, said she was raising a future doormat. Every time Lily stood up for her daughter, she became the problem, the dramatic one, the one who made things difficult. She let it go more times than she could count, because she kept hoping that this time it would be different. But it wasn't. The moment they humiliated Maya in front of a crowd, reduced her to a lesson or a punchline, Lily understood. They didn't just ignore her pain, they inherited it, and now they were passing it on. She couldn't stop what had happened to her, but she could stop what came next. She could break the cycle. She could choose her daughter, choose herself, and that's what she did, quietly, without a confrontation, without rage, just truth. With one last glance at the folder, Lily whispered into the stillness of the kitchen, "No more." And Jonathan, watching her with that steady gaze, nodded, not like someone giving permission, but like someone who had been waiting a long time to say, "Finally." At dawn, the world outside their window was still and gray, like it hadn't yet decided what kind of day it wanted to be. Inside, the decision had already been made. Lily stood barefoot in the living room, folder in hand, while Jonathan reviewed the final details of the accounts they were pulling. It didn't feel dramatic, just necessary, quiet, like the way fog clears off the lake after sunrise. They started with the rental supplement. For nearly 2 years, Lily and Jonathan had quietly paid the difference on Veronica's lakefront villa when her sponsorship deals faltered, the unspoken agreement being that family helps family. But family had turned into a knife wrapped in expectation. Jonathan emailed the landlord, the one who had always known their names were on the payments, and stated plainly, "Effective immediately, we will no longer cover any portion of Miss Blake's rent." No explanation, no negotiation, just truth. Next was the car loan. The sleek white SUV Veronica loved to post about was, in fact, leased under Jonathan's name, a favor done in a moment of reluctant trust. She had already defaulted twice. They had stepped in before. This time, they stepped out. Jonathan drafted the letter to the loan company, formally relinquishing any financial protection. Lily signed it with a hand that didn't tremble. Then came the final touch, the digital fold, screenshots of texts, transcriptions of voicemails, photos of Maya's handmade birthday cards, juxtaposed with that crooked sticky note. Group messages where Margot called Maya a little too emotional, just like her mother, a voice memo from Christmas 2 years ago, where their mother leaned into Veronica during a family video and said, "Don't bother getting her anything nice. She never appreciates it anyway." They added it all, formatted it, and labeled the file. For clarity. No commentary, just the facts. By 7:15, they were dressed and ready. Maya still slept upstairs, curled under the galaxy print comforter Jonathan had found on one of those nights when she couldn't stop crying after a family gathering. Lily wrapped the folder in a simple red ribbon, a leftover from one of Veronica's influencer bring parties, and slid it into a flat white envelope. No card, no note. Just wait. At 7:30, they drove to Veronica's house. The lake shimmered behind the glass-paneled balcony as they approached the front steps. Jonathan placed the envelope gently on the welcome mat. He rang the bell, then turned back to the car without a word. They were halfway down the winding drive when it happened. The scream. Not the performative kind Veronica used on social media, but raw, unrestrained. A howl that sounded like it had lived inside her for years. Lily didn't turn around. Jonathan's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, and for a split second, he smiled. Later that morning, while sipping coffee, Lily's phone lit up. The messages came in waves. 38 unread texts. The first few were all caps. "What is wrong with you? And you think this is funny?" Then the guilt. "We're family. You can't do this to us." Then the desperation. "Please, you can't just stop paying over a joke." Finally, the threats. If you don't fix this, you'll regret it." Lily didn't answer any of them. Instead, she opened her laptop and uploaded the folder to a private drive. Then, one by one, she sent the link to her extended family, her aunts, her uncles, her cousins. No commentary, no dramatics, just a subject line, "In case you ever wondered why we stopped showing up." By nightfall, 20 replies had rolled in. Half said some version of, "I had no idea." One cousin simply wrote, "Good for you." That evening, Lily sat beside Maya while she built a glitter galaxy out of paper scraps and glue sticks. "I want to make one for my new room," she said softly. "One that feels like me." Lily kissed the top of her head. "It already does." There was still more fallout to come, Lily knew that. But the hardest part was done. The line had been drawn, not in fire, not in anger, in clarity, in love, in the kind of protection no child should have to earn. And though the storm was still rumbling in the distance, inside their small mountain home, the air had shifted. Lily could feel it. For the first time in her life, she wasn't walking on eggshells. She was walking forward. For a few days, there was quiet. Not peace, just the kind of silence that hums with restrained fury. Lily didn't trust it, and she was right. 10 days after the envelope drop, Maya came home from school with a note tucked into her backpack. It was pastel pink with tiny hearts along the border, like it belonged in a child's lunchbox. Inside, written in curvy handwriting Lily recognized instantly, were the words, "If you ever feel sad or confused, remember Auntie Veronica loves you. You can call me any time, even if your mom says no." Maya looked up with wide eyes, unsure. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked. Lily's stomach twisted into something cold and sharp. This wasn't just a boundary crossed, it was a targeted strike. Not an accident, not ignorance. It was manipulation, as calculated as the sticky note had been. Lily's hands shook as she called the school, and her voice barely stayed level as she explained what had happened. Turned out, Veronica had used a friend's name to gain access. No ID check, no oversight, just a sugary smile and a lie. That same afternoon, Lily filed a formal no-contact order with the school, the district, and the local police. Her lawyer followed up with a cease and desist to both Veronica and their parents. It didn't stop there. A few days later, fake social media accounts started tagging Lily in posts filled with blurry childhood photos and captions like, "Some people forget who raised them." Another anonymous message read, "Just remember, kids grow up. One day she'll know what you did." That was the final crack. Lily forwarded everything to her lawyer, who brought it to law enforcement. She didn't respond publicly, she didn't lash out, she didn't need to. The truth was already moving, slow, steady, unstoppable. Then came the crying selfie. Veronica posted it on her now private social media, captioned, "When your own family turns on you." The sympathy train came quickly, until it didn't. Quietly, one aunt reached out, then a cousin, then another. Screenshots circulated, voice memos were replayed. The curated narrative fell apart. A few brave relatives began asking real questions. Why wasn't Lily invited to Grandpa's birthday last year? Why was Veronica withdrawing from the family's emergency fund if she was doing so well? What really happened at that birthday party? Margot and Gregory tried to contain the damage by calling an emergency Zoom meeting with the extended family. Lily didn't attend, but she heard what happened. When someone asked why Maya had been mocked in front of 20 children, Margot stuttered. When another cousin mentioned the folder, Veronica logged off. 4 people quietly left the call before it ended. After that, things shifted. Margot stopped posting family photos online. Veronica deleted her Instagram account altogether. And then, the final attempt at control arrived in the form of a pale blue envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Margot. Delicate cursive on monogrammed paper. "Family is messy. We made mistakes, but at the end of the day, we are all we have. Don't punish everyone forever for one misunderstanding. Your daughter will regret this distance, so will you. Lily read it once, then twice, and instead of replying, she framed it, hung it beside the sticky note that had started everything. A private gallery of truth, a reminder that she hadn't imagined it, that it had happened, that she had survived it. For the first time in her life, closure didn't come with a slammed door or a final scream. It came in silence, in a decision, in the refusal to explain herself to people who had never really listened. And just like that, the story they had always told about her cracked. And in the quiet that followed, something else began. Something Lily had never dared to believe she could give her daughter. A life free from the weight of pretending. It didn't happen all at once. Healing never does. But little by little, the noise faded. The text slowed, the calls stopped, and the silence that once felt like abandonment began to feel like space, like air. In that space, Maya bloomed. She started sleeping through the night again, her breathing no longer shallow and guarded, but deep and soft, like someone learning how to exhale after holding their breath too long. At school, she made 2 new friends, quiet, curious girls from her art class, who didn't flinch when she covered her ears or needed to take breaks. She began humming to herself while painting, swirling her brush in slow, confident strokes. One morning, over breakfast, she looked up and said, "My heart doesn't feel like it's buzzing anymore." Lily blinked hard, her hand pausing over the toast, and whispered, "I'm so glad, baby." She wrapped her arms around Maya, and the little girl squeaked in surprise, laughing as Lily held her tight. That laugh sounded like freedom. They didn't celebrate, not in the traditional sense, but they did begin to do something better. They breathed. They played board games on rainy afternoons, drank cocoa on the porch during the first chilly night of fall, and let weekends be quiet and unremarkable and safe. Jonathan started sketching plans for a treehouse, something whimsical just for Maya, with string lights and a reading nook. Lily rearranged the living room furniture, moving the couch so the sun fell across Maya's art table every afternoon. They planted lavender outside Maya's window. Peace didn't look like fireworks or victory laps. It looked like ordinary joy, uninterrupted, unthreatened. Then, one morning near the end of the school year, Maya brought home a permission slip. Family Day. Each student could invite one adult to visit their classroom, see their artwork, and share cookies. "I want you to come," she said without hesitation. "Of course," Lily replied, touched by how quickly Maya had chosen her, without fear, without doubt. The classroom buzzed with energy that day. Projects lined the walls, sculptures and paintings stacked proudly on desks. Maya's piece was a swirling galaxy of soft pinks and purples, with little glittering comets and a nebula in the shape of a heart. In the bottom corner, in careful black letters, she had painted the words, "Safe is better than big." Lily felt her throat tighten, but she didn't cry. She simply took Maya's hand and held it, watching her daughter shine not because someone gave her permission, but because she had been protected long enough to find her own light. On the drive home, Maya stared out the window, quiet for a while. Then she turned and asked, "Mom, do you think they're still mad?" Lily considered her answer. "They were loud," she said softly, "but that's not the same as being right." Maya nodded, thoughtful. Then she smiled. "Okay." That night, they got ice cream. Not to celebrate anything specific, but because they could. Later, after Maya fell asleep with her arms flung over her stuffed fox and her galaxy painting propped against the wall, Lily checked her email one last time. There it was, a message from Veronica. No subject line, no greeting, just 6 small words. "Are you happy now? You won." Lily didn't reply. She didn't need to, because Veronica was wrong. This wasn't about winning. This was about walking away and never looking back. about choosing love over loyalty, truth over tradition. Maybe she had gone too far. Maybe she hadn't gone far enough. Some nights Lily still lay awake and wondered if silence at that birthday party had been powerful enough, or if she should have shouted or should have exposed everything right then and there. But when she looked at Maya now, laughing freely, painting galaxies, asking bold questions without flinching, she knew. She had done the right thing. She had stopped the story from repeating. She had pulled her daughter out of the fire before the smoke ever reached her lungs. And sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, Lily would look up at the framed sticky note on the wall, "Be better next year," hanging beside Margot's letter, and feel nothing but stillness. Not rage, not grief, just clarity. And in that clarity she finally understood. She hadn't burned a bridge, she had built a door. And she had walked through it, carrying her daughter in one hand and her peace in the other. The lesson from Lily's story is clear and powerful. Breaking generational cycles of emotional abuse is not betrayal, it's protection. Love is not something that should come with conditions, humiliation, or silence. For too long, Lily accepted mistreatment under the guise of family loyalty, convincing herself that enduring pain was better than causing waves. But when that cruelty was aimed at her daughter, she realized the most loving thing she could do was walk away. Not in anger, but in clarity and strength. The story reminds us that setting boundaries is not cruelty, it's care. That silence, when chosen with intention, can be louder than shouting. And that peace is not something others give you, it's something you fight for, protect, and create for the ones you love. Most importantly, it teaches us that choosing our children's emotional safety over old patterns is an act of radical love, one that might cost us approval but gives them freedom. In the end, Lily didn't seek revenge or applause, she sought peace, and in doing so, she gifted her daughter something no party, no apology, no grand gesture could ever match. A life where love is safe, consistent, and real.